Every weekend was a new adventure. Almost every weekend was almost history making. So many things that we did, no one had tried before. We did some pretty crazy things. This was my early 20s, and it was so prevalent during the first years. I kind of started feeling like, oh, this is normal life. It was just so exciting, and exciting to read about the other pilots in other parts of the country who were doing also incredible
Hi, this is Airflow. I'm here flying RC with a bunch of hang glider pioneers in New England. Look at them. It's a fun day. Ah!
I'll go get it. I'll get it and throw it. That was a pretty nice.
Everybody was generally supportive and wanted to see everybody do well. I thought that our competition was against ourselves to be successful, not against the other people.
Hi, Tom. I understand you are one of the pioneers fly hang glider. Can you tell me about the early days? And how did you get into aviation?
Hi, Flo. Thank you for asking the question. I had always been interested in aviation since I was a child. In kindergarten, I was asked to draw a picture of Columbus with the Nina and Pinta and Santa Maria, and I did draw that, but I had a helicopter in the back with John Glenn's space capsule on a hook. I started building model airplanes when I was 6 years old with my dad. And then when I was around 13 years old, we started doing very early radio control airplanes. I was out flying at a place called Bowes Hill, flying RCs with my dad, and a man drove by with a very early hang glider on it. I was about 15 years old, and I went with him and my aviation club. I started in junior high school. We had built a bamboo and plastic hang glider a few years before that, and with his real hang glider and my knowledge of how to fly it, I really started hang gliding. And since then, that was about 52 years ago.
52 years ago.
Yes.
How old are you now?
I'm.
You are 69 years
Yes,
old?
I am.
Can you tell me how did you stay so young? What's the
Flying.
secret?
I've continued to hang glide and paraglide and stay very active physically and eat well. And I've been very fortunate also. But that was the start of my career. And then after that, I was into ultralights. They have some of the planes we used to produce here called the Flight Star right at this field. And then after that, into the light sport aircraft business. But now I'm retired and I still paraglide and hang glide, and I'm back to flying RCs. So thank you very much for asking.
Ah! Oh my God!
It'll be repaired. It's repairable. Here's your battery.
It's broken. I just broke my RC. Oh, ouch. Hurt.
And yeah, I didn't want to see anybody get hurt.
The Federal Aviation Administration didn't want to see anybody get hurt either. But how do you go about regulating something like hang gliding, a sport where anybody, anywhere, can jump off anything and commit an act of aviation?
Woo! Hey, nice landing. You mean you design the plane and produce plane and sell it?
Yes.
What's the plane's name? And
Well, I built it as well as just that one Sparky. I know.
how did you design it?
Well, I started designing hang gliders at age 15, and and it's kind of the technology's really available. But I worked under several engineers and learned the craft, and it's really what I've been doing all my life.
It's a beautiful day today.
Yes.
What's your name, and can you tell me about your story?
Okay, I'm Tony Verhulst, longtime hang glider pilot and currently a sailplane pilot. I started flying hang gliders in the very early days. I'm talking like 1974, and I was involved in that sport for a long time. I've flown mostly up and down the East Coast, down to Grandfather Mountain, which was one of the highlights of flying, going off the cliffs there, and won several contests. And then I got later I got caught by the 40 to 1 bug and got into sailplanes. And I've been flying sailplanes for more than 35 years, and I'm currently a member of the Greater Boston Soaring Club, operating out of Sterling Airport, Massachusetts. And I'm also a certified flight instructor, teaching students there. I've done a bit of cross-country soaring, flying 300-kilometer triangles. But mostly these days, ever since selling my sailplane, I've been instructing. I also have a power license, but I find the unpowered flying much more interesting because it's a thinking game, and that's basically my flying story.
Can you explain that? Why it's a thinking game?
It's a thinking game because you have to work with the weather. Um, I always compare power flying as driving through the sky. It's kind of like long distance driving on the highway, and it can be interesting, especially if the weather gets funky. But when you're flying gliders, um, you always have to be aware of what the wind is doing, where the lift is. On days when there are cumulus clouds, very often you can find thermals under the clouds that'll take you up to the cloud base. On days when there are no clouds, you look for terrain that heats up faster than the surrounding area to release the lift, like plowed fields, parking lots, and things like that. But you always have to keep in mind that you have to keep a landable field within gliding range. That's really rule number one. So when you're flying cross country, you're flying from one lift source to another, and most of the time everything works out well. But in my case, once a year or so, um, when you're far away from home and the lift doesn't quite pan out, you wind up landing where you don't intend. Um, I'm a coward. I've always managed to keep an airport within gliding range, and when you land there, towards the end of the day, the club will send a tow plane out to bring you back. But if you land in a farmer's field someplace, you have to basically a crew has to come out with your trailer, disassemble the glider, and drive back, and that's our long day. And yeah, I just love unpowered flight. I just can't imagine not doing it.
Why do you love unpowered flight? Is that because no engine and it's quiet?
Yes, that's a lot of it. And also with the scenery is just beautiful with the bubble canopy. It's not like you're staring out of this little airliner window. And but I like it because you really have to work with nature to stay in the air. You don't buy an expensive glider just to get towed up to 3,000 feet and glide back down. You you buy a glider or you fly sailplanes because you want to be able to stay up in the air without an engine, and that requires thought and like I said, working with nature rather than driving through it. That's really the bottom line.
So how did you get involved in aviation, and when did you start it?
Ever since I can remember, I've wanted to fly something. um, I got involved with hang gliders, mostly I saw some magazine articles like Popular Mechanics, and I decided that was something I might want to try. And so I went to a local hang glider manufacturer, Sky Sports, long out of business, and bought a glider and started flying off of hills and later mountains. And
When is that? When is it?
this would be in 1974, so long time ago. 41. I flew hang gliders for a long time, and there's nothing. I enjoyed that a lot, but with hang gliders, especially at the time, it was most of the flights were pretty short, and then when you moved up into sailplanes, which I started later, maybe 1985, you could really go distance. Uh, Currently, members in my sailplane club, Greater Boston Soaring Club, routinely do 300-kilometer triangle flights, and that takes a bit of planning. It takes good weather and good airmanship. So it's very much of a skill game, which is what I like about soaring.
And it'll fly.
Yeah. Slightly nose it just like before. Hey, the thermal should be right here. Okay. Yep.
Hang gliding. My name is Terry Sweeney, and I started hang gliding by building my own biplane hang glider. That was I was 18 at the time, so that would have been 1965 or 66. And I flew the thing for about 3 or 4 years before I ran across the next person that flew hang gliders. And I later on became a hang gliding designer, and my claim to fame is I built the first double surface hang glider that had all the structure buried inside the sail, so that it had a much better glide angle because it was not, it didn't have all this stuff hanging out in the wind. So as time went on, I flew in all kinds of contests all over the world, and hang gliding has been very good to me.
I saw a very interesting thing here.
And they picked up him and the glider.
What some of our hang gliders used to look like. And I made, this one's interesting because I made it by making a whole bunch of cracks. You can see the cracks. And each time I'd crack it, I'd bend it and fill the crack with glue. And that's how I ended up with this shape. And this actually, this flies fairly well. But I don't have the arm to launch it anymore.
You design it?
I designed it, yeah. I used to design hang gliders, in fact. They used to have this thing called the Hang Gliding Hall of Fame, which I got inducted into. But they've now changed it to the Rogello Foundation. And they're going to have they're going to find it's going to be a Kitty Hawk. And they're going to, and they're going to, they don't have a physical facility yet for this, but they're going to soon have a physical facility that they'll have a bunch of things in. And there's about 25 people in the Hang Gliding Hall of Fame. And there's 2 guys landed right out there. I'm distracted by all these gliders flying.
What's the most difficult thing to design the hang glide?
Oh, that's a good question. Designing a hang glider has a lot to do with all kinds of aerodynamics and structures. And I taught myself all about both. I started flying model airplanes like you see here when I was about 6 years old.
When is that?
What's that?
When is that? What year is
Oh,
that?
what year? That would have been 1953.
Wow.
1953. I was 6 or 7 years old, and I started building model airplanes, and I've built them all my life so far. I built one just about a couple months ago. Unfortunately, it was broken, so I didn't bring it here.
What's the early days like in aviation?
We flew these gliders that were fairly primitive. They didn't have a very good glide. They kind of went down instead of up.
Why
And,
is that?
well, because they had a primitive wing that wasn't all that able to. Gliders have this thing called glide angle,
Uh-huh.
and the glide angle is the angle that it glides down. And the early hang gliders, had a glide angle of 4 to 1. If you were on a 100-foot hill, you could glide 400 feet. Nowadays, the latest hang gliders have a glide angle of around 20 to 1. So if you're on a 100-foot hill, you could glide 2,000 feet. And so we've come a long ways, very long ways. I look for things like the wind in the trees. In this case, we got a couple of windsocks, but the wind in the trees is always a clue, and in grass, stuff like that. Yes, I was.
Sorry, can't do it.
Big Blue Sky director. How did you produce that movie? Can you tell me about it? And how did you involve in aviation?
I'm Bill Liscomb, and I got interested in aviation, I think, when I was born. My dad was a World War II B-24 co-pilot. I always loved airplanes, and when I was 21 years old, somebody handed me some subversive literature that mentioned the first hang gliding event in over 70 years in California. And so I sent my $3 in for the plans for the plane, and friends and I built it, and we showed up at the first Lilienthal meet in Newport Beach, and May 23rd, 1971. And there were about 12 of us flying there, and that was hang gliding into the United States at that time. And it's arguably the beginning of the sport of hang gliding. I flew hang gliders for 40 years, all over the US, in Europe, Canada, Mexico. I built my own airplane from a kit, a licensed experimental kit, and I've owned several sailplanes and have a diamond badge in Soaring. My mother is Bettina Gray, and she was a very famous hang gliding photographer. She had numerous covers of Hang Gliding magazine and photos and articles, and she passed away in 1998, and I ended up with all of her archives of pictures. And one day, walking through my garage where they were stored, I had an epiphany. I walked by a filing cabinet of where all her slides were stored, and I just had an epiphany. And it was, I need to make the movie. Because I knew everybody in hang gliding. I knew all the people who were starting up the Hang Gliding Association. I knew Dick Eiper, I knew the Wills brothers, and just everybody, Taras Kasenik. And I'm kind of like Forrest Gump. I never won any contests or designed any famous gliders. But I was there, and I, like Forrest Gump, you see him in all the pictures and stuff. I'm in Big Blue Sky at least a dozen times. And, I just it just dawned on me that I needed to tell the story, firsthand. It's not only is it the story of of hang gliding in its infancy and the troubles it encountered as it grew up, and but it was my life story. It was I went to sleep at night dreaming about hang gliding and get up in the morning and did it. And those first 10 years were just phenomenal. And that big blue sky just kind of gets up to about the mid 70s, 75, 76 ish. And, by that time I was on the Hang Gliding Manufacturers Association um, certification review committee, where we'd review all the certification packages from all the different manufacturers. And, it's the working title for Big Blue Sky was Dreams Come True, because that's kind of what the story's about. We all dreamed about flying, and that's what we ended up doing. And although I made it in standard definition, so it never got picked up and distributed by streaming companies. But we're working on that. But the success of the documentary for me is that big stack of emails I printed out of people saying, "Oh my God, buddy, you nailed it." That's exactly how it was, and it really conveyed the feeling of what it was like to go through all that and live through it. Which is grateful for that part too. And I also have movies from 1972 with Tom out at Blue Hills.
Oh, really?
Yep, his little hang tube
Hang tube, exactly.
Regalo and trotting down the hill, and Mike Marskowski with his big wing, and oh my God, it almost took off one time. And they grabbed it. Almost flew. Hold it down. Jesus.
Okay, my name is Rick Rolke. Have worked with both Tom and Terry in the past. I started, again, back to modeling. I started flying RC airplanes in high school, probably. And then I started flying hang gliders. And hang gliders started while I was at the Rhode Island School of Design. And in the winter, the graduate students at RISD would teach a course. And there was a sculptor who had seen hang gliders and he thought he looked like his stretch fabric sculptures. So he decided to teach a course in hang gliding. It was misprinted in the course catalog as hand gliding. And at RISD, we could have easily spent 6 weeks folding paper airplanes, but it turned out that what he wanted to do was build them. So with no previous experience, 13 of us, all working on separate aspects, built 13 standard hang gliders. We went up to learn how to fly in the winter, February, and Terry Sweeney was our instructor with some of his friends. And we took off from a maybe 80-foot hill in 5 feet of snow, so it was impossible to hurt yourself. And then I really became involved in it, and when I got out of school, I worked for Sky Sports. Pause for a second. So I worked for Sky Sports as a designer, and did that for about 4 years. Flew locally and flew in Telluride, Colorado, and various contests. But also, when I was at RISD, I participated in the Brown Soaring Club, and I learned how to fly sailplanes. But I never quite got to solo. And so after I stopped flying hang gliders and sailed for quite a while, I decided to get back into sailplanes and joined the Greater Boston Soaring Club. Tony, who you spoke to, was my principal instructor. And I've been flying sailplanes since 2000. I've probably got 2,500 or 3,000 hours in sailplanes. I've made some flights of over 1,000 kilometers. We fly in the fall in Mount Washington. I've been to 28,000 feet in a glider. And that's my current passion, besides coming out here and flying model airplanes.
Wow. Yeah, his just shot straight up.